6.11, consideration of resolution amending resolution number 23-116 to amend the fiscal year 23-24 adopted budget by adjusting reserves, fund balance carryover, revenues, and appropriations. And B, resolution amending resolution 23-117 to amend the position allocation for fiscal year 23-24 to conform to the mid-year budget adjustments. And we are going to take a 5-minute break. Thank you for coming up and getting settled. We'll be back at 3:28 p.m. All right, welcome back. Thank you very much. And we've already read and introduced the item. We are again on 6.11, and I'm just going to go on and introduce Ms. Moreno so she can start with this item.
Thank you. Casey Moreno, Deputy County Administrative Officer. So I am presenting the mid-year budget adjustments today, but first I would like to go over the general fund discretionary revenues. So the cannabis cultivation and business tax through January, $1,162,858 has been received. That does include some payments of both installments on the cultivation tax. We are expecting around $1.5 million to be received, which is in line with the $1.4 million that is budgeted. Secured property tax through January, about $11,600,000 has been deposited. That also includes both installments in some cases, and this is on track to meet or slightly exceed the budgeted amount, which is just over $20 million. Sales tax, Bradley Burns is $159,000 less than it was this time last year. We did budget $600,000 less this year than we did last year, but it is still on track to come in close to what we did budget. Prop 172 is $347,000 less than it was this time last year. We did budget around $100,000 less than last year, but we are anticipating it to be around $525,000 less than what we did receive last year.
The difference there is what we received last year versus what we budgeted last year and this year. We received far more than we budgeted last year, and we budgeted just slightly more, if not less, than budget of last year. So if you consider what was received last year versus what's coming in, it's almost $1.5 million. But because we had already taken some of that in consideration, it's only $500,000-ish likely lower than we expected.
Okay.
Sorry.
So ARPA is the next one. So far, we have claimed about $1.7 million. I have checked with a few of the departments, and they are on track to be either under contract or have fully expended their allocation by December 31st of 2024. If they have not expended, they will be under contract by December 31st. So that will give them an additional 2 years until December 31st of 26 to expend those funds, but they have to be under contract. And then LATCF, Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Fund, we have just over $3 million in reserve. Only 1% has been obligated, but has not been expended yet. So now I'm going to go over mid-year. So overall, the reserve adjustments total just over $80,000. The reserve adjustments are just under $5 million, and the appropriation adjustments total about $7.8 million. The FBA, or fund balance available for general fund and non-general fund, was completed just after final recommended budget, so additional carryover was available to the departments and to general fund. So the revenue, the reserve adjustments, and the FBA fund balance available for general fund and non-general fund total the appropriation adjustments. From the fund balance available for general fund, about $1.8 million is new request. So now I'm going to go over a few of the highlights. The highlights do not include every change, but are the ones that we think are most important to point out. And I will go over some of the more significant requests. So reserve adjustments, budget unit 4121, integrated waste management, is decreasing reserve account 985 by $249,678 and transferring to fund 987 in the amount of $207,652 and fund 992 in the amount of $42,678 to meet actual liability calculations per CalRecycle. Budget Unit 5125, Welfare Assistance, is decreasing by $354,387. $100,000 will be used for 2 new contracts for DR3, and the remaining $254,387 will be transferred to Budget Unit 5011. And there are various other special district reserves that are moving funds to cover anticipated charges. Next, I'll go over the revenues. The Budget Unit 1012 Administration Office is requesting to accept $1 million in AB 102 funds to be used for tree mortality issues. Budget Unit 1671 Buildings and Grounds requests to accept $129,096 from the state. $42,000 is reimbursement for courthouse exterior repairs, and $87,096 is reimbursement for the courthouse roof. Budget Unit 1785, Public Safety Facilities, transfer funds from Budget Unit 1120 in the amount of $275,000 for the jail generator and $275,000 for the armory remodel. Budget Unit 3123, Lamson Field Capital Projects, request to accept the following transfers from Budget Unit 1120, $7,500 local match for rehab apron design, $79,486 for the hangar development project, and $135,000 for a short-term loan, which will be repaid this fiscal year. And finally, Budget Unit 8109, Watershed Protection District, requests to accept about $2.6 million for a Wildlife Conservation Board grant, which is currently pending approval. So appropriations, Budget Unit 1011, Board of Supervisors requests additional general fund in the amount of $21,500 to cover increased salary and benefits costs for the Board of Supervisors. Budget Unit 1121, Auditor, requests additional general fund in the amount of $300,000 for a needs assessment for a new accounting system. Budget Unit 1671, Buildings and Grounds, requests to increase budget by $47,000 for electronic locks for the courthouse and $84,000 for increased maintenance and repairs from shelter occupants and operations. Budget Unit 2106, Grand Jurors, requests additional general fund in the amount of $20,775 to cover increased costs for grand jury operations. Budget Unit 2111, Public Defender, requests to transfer funds to increase attorney contracts to cover the Lake Indigent Defense Agreement through the end of this fiscal year. And there was 5 budget units that were affected, so a total of $242,777 in general fund is being used to reimburse the Intercare workers' compensation overpayments. So during Intercare's tenure in processing the county's workers' compensation claims, it overpaid $242,774.08 in checks to the county to cover for temporary disability of employees under the coverage provided by the county's insurance risk sharing pool, which is Public Risk Innovation Solutions and Management, PRISM. Staff subsequently confirmed the occurrence of these overpayments, and staff recommends paying the $242,774.08 back to PRISM. Budget Unit 2703, Animal Care and Control, requests additional general fund in the amount of $21,000 due to a decrease in license fee renewal and an increase in overtime costs. Budget Unit 7011, Parks and Recreation, requests additional general fund in the amount of $10,313 to clean up and block off access of an illegal dump site on county property. There are 2 staffing changes. In Budget Unit 4121, Integrated Waste Management, they are requesting to remove 1 office assistant and replace it with a office assistant / office assistant 3, so flex position. And in Budget Unit 5011, Social Services Administration, they are requesting to remove a social worker CPS 1234 and replacing it with a administrative assistant. For capital assets, I'll go over a few of the new ones. Budget Unit 2201, Sheriff Coroner, new capital asset in the amount of $11,077 for WatchGuard mitigation fees. I can't say
Migration.
migration, sorry.
You're good.
Thank you.
You're good.
It's not a number, I can't say it. Budget Unit 2214, Sheriff Asset Forfeiture, $120,000 for night vision equipment. 3123, Lamson Field Capital Projects, $150,000 for rehabilitate apron design. Budget Unit 8109, Watershed Protection District, $15,000 for hauler trailer purchase. Budget Unit 8354, Lacosan SE Regional System, $5,800 for breaker and contractor test equipment. Budget Unit 8480, Soda Bay, $14,000 for lab charge analyzer. And then we have 3 additional changes that were requested after the posting of the agenda. Would you like me to go over those now, or?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we would like to add to the capital asset list for Budget Unit 2703, Animal Control, $45,000 to account 6274. This will be for an additional box to replace a box that was just damaged in the storm this past weekend. We would like to allocate $200,000 from Budget Unit 1072 Cannabis in account 8123 to Budget Unit 8109 Water Resources in their account 8122. On December 12th of 2013, your board approved the allocation of funds for the design portion of PG&E transmission and distribution line relocation within the Middle Creek Restoration Project. So allocating these funds will pay for that. And then we would also like to allocate funds from Sheriff Budget Unit 2201 to Budget Unit 2202 in the amount of $300,000 from 01-11 to 01-11. And the reason for that is the funds are for 2 deputies.
Keep going. Sorry.
Okay. 2 deputies which are working in dispatch are budgeted for 2201, however, are being paid from 2202. This will lower the overall appropriations in 2201 and increase the appropriations in 2202. That's it.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions? Appreciate your guys' time with me yesterday to go over this, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one, but Supervisor Pyska.
Well, I'm delighted that we finally get to talk about the $1 million that's coming here to help us with tree mortality. This is something that I worked on with Senator McGuire's office for a long, long time. And I don't have the details to share with you about the program. I know that's still being worked out with staff, but it's significant, and we really appreciate the support from the state.
Anyone else have a comment or question? Okay. Appreciate the additions of the things that we discussed. Really feel bad for our animal control and having to deal with falling trees on their vehicles, but appreciate the fact that we can jump on it and make it available so they can start processing of a new acquisition of a vehicle.
4 to 6 months.
It's a 6 to 8 month process for the box.
6 to 8 months.
It's a process that needs to be started today, and it was pretty fast for you guys to add it in there, and just wanted to share appreciation for that. I don't have any further questions at this moment in time. Everything that I was going to bring up, you already did, so appreciate that. And Supervisor Simon, you're playing, or you? Okay. Let's open it up for public comment. And I see no hands in the Zoom room, and everyone's rushing to the mic in the chamber. So I'll put a stop to that and say bring it back to the board for action on this item, unless you have further final comments. All right. Action.
Mr. Mr. Chair, I see two resolutions. I'm going to offer the first resolution, amending resolution number 2023-116 to amend the fiscal year 2023-24 adopted budget by adjusting reserves, fund balance carryover, revenues, and appropriations.
Resolution has been offered.
Supervisor Simon? Yes. Supervisor Crandall? Aye. Supervisor Green?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye. And before we move on with the next one, is it possible for you to give at least the public a brief summary of the allocation changes for the positions?
I was going to say it needs to have the amended.
Oh, does it need to be amended?
That's not part of the original
For these changes.
budget. So those are additions too.
No, I get it that we have a resolution, but wondering if you can just summarize for the public what those changes are to the position allocations. Just because we haven't talked about it, we only went over the numbers, we didn't go over position allocations.
We aren't changing, oh, just say the staffing changes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to be
So the
transparent about the changes.
The staffing changes are to Budget Unit 4121 Integrated Waste Management, deleting a Office Assistant and replacing it with a Office Assistant/Office Assistant 3. And Budget Unit 5011 Social Services Administration, removing a Social Worker CPS 1, 2, 3, 4 and replacing it with an Administrative Assistant.
And in the long run, it's a wash, it's take away, add, and so it ends up being zero addition. I just wanted to make sure that we mention that for the public. And if there's any further questions or comments, if there's not, I'm looking for a resolution to be offered.
I offer the resolution amending Resolution 2023-117 to amend the position allocations for fiscal year 2023-24 to conform to the mid-year budget adjustments.
Supervisor Simon? Yes. Supervisor Crandall? Aye. Supervisor Green?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Board.